I realize they kind of parlay into each other here, but talk to us about your ability to scale 78 doors.
We're getting over $4 million in business credit and corporate funding for clients. He messed up everything that he could. It took 2 years. My money was tied up. I owned the lot. I was going to finance the property.
An example for people that are listening is like, if you have a business and you're doing the day-to-day, that would be your active income.
What softwares do I need? What can I purchase to better my business? And with what's left over.
So the LLC creations, tax preparation, you gave us a great breakdown there. Estate planning is another one, and then business credit. Welcome back to the Wealth Juice podcast. As always, it's your boys, Ryan and Corey here with another episode for you. Today, we interviewed Tommy Thornburgh. He is the founder of Prime Corporate Services and also a real estate investor with 78 doors in his portfolio. And what I like about Tommy is he gave us the walkthrough of his entire story from average Joe to entrepreneur to real estate investor and how he ties everything together. And he's just so smart and gave us ins and outs of what it's like to be an entrepreneur, the trials and tribulations that he had to go through when starting this company, working with partners, and then why he started the company in the beginning. But Prime Corporate Services, for those who don't know, they have 4 main pillars, what they help people do. It's entity formation, tax preparation, business credit, and estate planning. So things you need as you become a real estate investor to protect your assets, to optimize the benefits you get for being a business owner and being a real estate investor. And Tommy created a business around these needs, right? And so we went deep into all of these in the episode, and he mentions the benefits and then the structure he recommends for people. So it's definitely worth a listen all the way through. He literally gives you the blueprint of like, hey, here's how you should set everything up. And if you'd like to use them, we've partnered with them. So we have a link in the show notes. You guys can click and book a 45-minute free consultation. But that's not the point of this episode. The point was to share Tommy's story to show how he went from a young guy to a super successful entrepreneur in his early ages. And he has 4 business partners they started this company with, and they're absolutely killing it. It's just really cool to see him parlay his business into his real estate portfolio and just absolutely kill it at such a young age.
Prime Corporate did 9 figures this year, and they have a couple like entities within there. One did 7, one did 8, one did 9. And so they're really big, but they kind of give you that like homegrown feel. And that's what I really like about them is that within our community, there's a representative from Prime answering questions for free when people have questions about entity formation, tax savings, asset protection, business funding, any of these. And, you know, they're very like value first. Like, let's just give it away for free. Like Tommy actually mentions in the episode that they have a new service coming out. Basically, I'm not going to spoil it, but it's basically anything that you would need for lending to get a property. They have a hub where you can keep all this information and just send it on to lenders. So to us, it was like, wow, this is great. And by the way, he's giving it away for free. That's just the kind of guy he is. I don't want to spoil too much. Tommy just is like, you know, he's very similar to Ryan and I, just like we have a great conversation, a great vibe to us. And like, he wants us to go to Nicaragua together. So we got to take him up on some sort of a trip together, but he's a great dude, great episode, great listen, take some notes, and we'll bring him in.
Let's do it. Tommy, officially welcome to the Wealth Juice podcast. Corey and I are so excited to have you on the show, man. We talked a lot pre-recording. We've done a lot of things together so far, and we're just excited to share your story with our listeners and have them get to know you a bit. So thanks for joining us today.
Of course. Yeah. Thanks so much for having me. I was telling Corey right before we jumped on, I have the exact same hat. And I think that happened last time we talked as well. So thank you for having me. It's great seeing you guys again.
Can't be on, dude. That's the brand I've been rocking for the last 6 months. So it's taking all my money. But
I'll be your guy's caddy because I kind of feel like you both are pretty decent at golf. I know Corey is. I'm trash, but I have caddied and I used to work golf maintenance. So happy to be the mule for you guys and have a good day together.
Sounds good to me.
Cool, man. All right. So Tommy, take us through your story. I want to just to give kind of lay of the land for people. You are I would call you a serial entrepreneur. You've created a couple businesses. You have a great real estate portfolio, but the main gig here that you run, you're the founder of Prime Corporate Services. You help people form entities for their businesses, tax preparation, business credit, estate planning. And these are integral parts of business, especially as real estate investors, that you're going to need to start or be familiar with. And this was a big hole that we were lagging and lacking in as we kind of started our journey. So we want to bring this to the masses, at least bring this to our community, people to say, hey, listen, we have a solve for this now. And I really want to walk through your journey of from, average guy to business owner to entrepreneur to real estate investor. So if you could take us back as far as you'd like to go and then work us up to, kind of how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, that's great. I'm going to take you all the way back to when I was 3. How's that sound? So
sounds great.
When I was 3, my parents got divorced. And as you get older, you really realize certain milestones and things that really impacted your life and shaped you into the person that you are. My mom was a real estate agent. My dad owned a real estate brokerage. My wife is also a real estate agent now, but I kind of joke about this half-heartedly that I don't know how my parents stayed together for 3 years. They were probably miserable. I think the only thing they had in common was that they wanted my sister and I to be self-employed. And for that, I am forever grateful. So I had a pretty unique upbringing in the sense that when I turned 18 years old, I drove from Salt Lake to Raleigh, North Carolina, knocked door to door selling pest control. And when my mom found out it was a 1099 opportunity, she was like, I'm so proud of you. It's going to be hard. You're going to be able to do it. I come home, have a good summer, make some good money for being 18, and told her I wanted to go to college. And she cried. And that's pretty unique, right? So a lot of my upbringing was be self-employed, be your own boss. That's the way that you're going to be able to make it. And fast forward, I had a couple jobs, a couple contracts, a couple sales opportunities. And then I meet the CEO, Steve Harward, who you guys also know, my partner and really the visionary over here at Prime Corporate. And we just hit it off on a Saturday. I kind of joked that it was like Wolf of Wall Street. I was Jonah Hill. It's like, show me a pay stub. I'll quit right now. And so there was 4 of us. We started Prime Corporate back in 2012. And we've set up over 200,000 businesses. Last year, we filed over 50,000 tax forms. We're getting over 4 million in business credit and corporate funding for clients. And based off of my knowledge within the tax code, because of what I do and what I live in, I've been able to build up a portfolio of 78 different doors, 2 different corporate buildings for the tax and for the Prime Corporate side. And a lot of those investments are strictly for depreciation, accelerated depreciation, saving money now, bettering my cash flow positions in the future, and setting ultimately up for my why, which is my girls, my kids, and leaving them with a good legacy long term. So there's the 30,000 foot view of where we are today.
Love it, man. So Prime has been really helpful for us: tax savings, business funding, asset protection, LLC formation, all of the above. And it's really all encompassing, and you guys are awesome. You are a presence within our coaching program in our community. We have a member of your team literally there to help answer questions. And my cousin who's in our coaching program texted me the other day, and he was like, hey, this new BOI, like, do I have to do it? And I was like, dude, ask Carson, like, ask in our community. And he's like, oh, okay. Should I? And Carson got back to him in 1 minute and he had his answer. And it's just like, your accessibility to help communities has been amazing. And I want to talk about Prime and all that Prime does. But before we get into all that, I really want to learn about your real estate portfolio and how you grew this. Now, I realize they kind of parlay into each other here, but talk to us about your ability to scale 78 doors. Like, that's no joke, So maybe give us the first couple steps you took. Were they partnerships? How did you find the deals? Like, what was your role in building that? And I'd love to learn more.
Yeah, for sure. So I ended up being a poster child, really, of what not to do. I bought my first primary home when I was 21, almost 22. And then I had a good financial year when I was 22. And I went to go buy my first investment property. It was in southern Utah. It was an amazing opportunity. I knew, like, and trusted the builder. And so we had a handshake deal on an agreement of a purchase price of $420,000. He messed up everything that he could. It took 2 years. My money was tied up. I owned the lot. I was going to finance the property. And by the time it got done, he wanted $520,000. So I ended up having to take him to court. If the property value went up, guess what? So did the land. I ended up suing him. But it was a very quick jumpstart into real life and business life. And that's a lot of the message that I tell people is just set yourself up with the thought in mind of it's not if you get sued, but when you get sued. Because my very first deal ended up going south. And it seems so ridiculous, but I'm so grateful that it happened. I should have just bought it for 520. It's worth like 1.5 right now. So that was a pretty stupid business move.
Well,
But that's
I have
how
a
it
question
started.
about I have a question about that. What made you decide to keep going? And here's the reason why I asked the question. We say the power of one. Like Ryan and I, our first deal, just it opened up our eyes to what the power of real estate could do. And then you look back and you see how much equity was gained, how much cash flow you made. It doesn't feel like it day one, but then you fast forward and it's such an amazing investment. But for you to have such a negative experience with your first, how did you decide, like have the fortitude to say, I'm going to keep doing this and this is going to work out for the better? Like what was that thought process like?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I mean, to be honest with you, I still have questions like that now where there's investments and I want to bet on myself in a lot of ways because I'm going to put the time, energy, and effort into it. I'm a overly optimistic person in a lot of ways. And I give people the benefit of the doubt a lot of times. And I trust to a fault. I'm one of those people that you burn me once and I'll just never think about you or talk to you ever again, which I think is a blessing and a curse when it comes to business because I like giving people the benefit of the doubt, but you have to be a little bit cautious. And what I learned from that mistake at 22 years old was simply putting contracts in place to hold people accountable for real estate deals, for partnerships. For example, Ryan and Corey, I know that we've talked about this with you two. Like, what are your responsibilities? What's the payment schedule? Allow yourselves the ability to keep the main thing, and better other business owners so that you have no questions on when money gets distributed and what the overall goal is. When things are in writing, it tends to hold people accountable. I have a pretty high risk tolerance, but the main reason is money. It comes down to money. And because I practice what I preach, January, February, March, quarter one, what's my profit and loss? October, November, December, what is my profit and loss? That is business shopping spree season. What softwares do I need? What can I purchase to better my business? And with what's left over, if I can buy real estate, depreciate it, lower my tax liability, depreciation's king. And it's one of the easiest ways that I can lower my tax liability and better my future. So it really is a math problem that keeps me going and taking those risks from a real estate standpoint.
Awesome, man. I have, I guess, more of like a personal question for you here. So Ryan and I this is 2024 was our first year that we felt like the biggest impact of the tax benefits of real estate. We felt it before. We got to write off some depreciation, but we're working on an 18 unit project and we're doing renovations to it. So naturally there was a loss that Ryan and I got to write up against our active income and we saved a significant amount of money. My question for you, and as people get to elevate in this game, is how do you balance the writing off of the depreciation against your active income against showing banks how much you make in order to be what you're qualified for like a new primary residence or buying through the banks? Like, how do you, I guess it's kind of a loaded question and there's not really like maybe more of an art than a science, but I'm curious on your expertise of like, what are best practices here and like how do you manage that process if you're looking to continue to buy but then showing the banks that you're not making what you actually made because of the depreciation, right? Like legally I'm saying, but yeah,
for sure. Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, this is the catch-22 of being self-employed. However, it really opens the doors for what I just consider more money, more problems. And what this comes down to is being very aware of your short-term goals and your long-term goals. And when you understand your profit and your loss and you have a game plan in place, if you want to buy a new primary home for yourself, you need 2 years of tax return self-employed to count that income, or lenders are going to throw it out the window, right? You could be making way more money self-employed than you were with your W-2. And a lender's like, oh my gosh, you're making twice as much money. This feels risky. And so it's one of those old stupid rules that's in place and you have to kind of play the game and be aware of it. So a lot of times if I'm not planning on purchasing things for myself, then I'm going to be a little bit more aggressive in expenses towards my business to better my following year. However, that's why I recommend when you have active and passive income like that, separate them into different entities. Not only to have the liability separated, but the tax code is different. Your active income is 10 to 37%. Your passive income is 0 to 20%, and depreciation doesn't count against your income because it's an asset. It's creating cash flow. So as long as you have 2 years of self-employed income, as long as you're aware that if you want to buy $1 million house, you need X to be able to qualify, it all comes down to proactive tax planning as opposed to reactive filing, and being honest with yourself on what your personal and your business goals are year over year.
I love that. The separation of different LLCs where you have passive income coming in through an LLC versus active income coming in. And an example for people that are listening is like, if you have a business and you're doing the day-to-day, that would be your active income. Ryan and I have general partnerships on larger projects. That is active income for us. We're taking an active role materially participating in these projects. And we also have some projects that we're limited partners in where we just put cash in, and it's interesting that those come into different bank accounts, right? And flow through different LLCs so that you can maximize, your tax advantages. Very cool. I want to talk about, before we get more deep into the prime stuff, like, you mentioned that first deal. Can you talk to us about the next couple and you had a kind of a bad experience with the first one. You had to sue. I assume it ended up working out for you, but like what were the next few steps you took as you started to buy more real estate?
Yeah, good question. I mean, a lot of it, so in the first little bit, a lot of it was based off of just my primary situation, right? A lot of my time, energy, and effort over the last 13 years is how do I make prime corporate services the best business possible to better our employees' life and to better our clients' experience. So because that takes up the majority of my focus, everything is really based off of how much money does it save me in taxes. I don't care as much about cash flow as a lot of real estate investors probably do. I'm more worried about the tax saving side. And this goes back to, I think, what I told your community: identify what you like to do and hire out the rest. I could tell you story after story on bad investments that I've made. I almost don't even remember the good ones. So another example, about 2 years ago, I had a good buddy call me, December 29th. This was 2 years ago. We're almost here on the anniversary. Tommy, I know you're always looking for different deductions. I've got a fourplex that's actually fairly close. It's 10 minutes from my house. I still haven't even driven past the place. And he's like, give me $100,000. I'll give you 33% of the property. I'll run a cost segregation study on it. I call my accountant. Should I do it? What does this mean? It'll save you 40, 50 grand in taxes. Okay, cool. Wire over the 100 grand. Terrible investment. Haven't seen a dollar back. It's been 2 years. This is from a friend as well. I talk trash to him every time I see him, but I can sleep at night. I'm okay with making that mistake because I had tax savings that I wouldn't have had otherwise. And it saved a relationship that, like I told you earlier, I probably would have burnt a bridge from. But I have that asset. It's there. I save money in taxes. I could sell the asset. I could do whatever I want to do to better that long term. Another big factor in my real estate journey is my cousin went through some hardships. His daughter was having some health issues. And I was fortunately in a position where I had some excess cash flow. And I've been buying properties in Missouri so that he could property manage them. I'm paying him as a property manager, and he gets to take care of his daughter. I take all the tax benefits. He's happy. He gets to take care of his little girl. And it's a win-win-win for everybody. And those are the situations that I like to get into business with. Even with me, you, the community, I want to help your clients. I want to be able to help you. I want to be able to benefit as a business owner. And if it's a win-win-win, that really helps. So it's just buying a couple properties at a year, getting into syndication deals with people that actually get you returns. I will never do a syndication with that person again. I will continue to do more syndication deals with the people that are showing me a return and maximizing on the tax strategies. And I'm okay with that. Business isn't all about winning every single time. I'm going to take my losses. And as long as I know it's going to save me money in taxes, I'm going to focus on me and focus on bettering my financial position no matter what. And I think just my mindset has a lot to do with that, being okay with taking a couple L's.
I love it, man. Thanks for the breakdown. And just bird's eye view, 20,000 foot. What's your portfolio consist of today? I know we mentioned 78 doors. Is it like, how many properties are within that?
Yeah, so I've got here in Utah, I've got 2 single families and 1 fourplex. In Texas, I've got 2 syndication deals. I think that those actually add up to like, it's about 90 doors between the syndication deals. And then out of Missouri, I've got, it's about 15 single families and about 100 acres. That's been really cool. I actually, as you guys know, we offer a really cool business credit process. And I've bought some of those properties that are a lot less expensive using business credit at lower rates and letting that cash flow. I can talk more a little bit about that as well. But everything that I own is out of Texas, Utah, and Missouri. And that's not by any reason other than those are the opportunities that I've been presented with. So looking at another property right now out of Arizona that hopefully we can get a good deal on. We'll see how it goes.
That's awesome, man. Cool. Thanks for the breakdown. So we kind of covered the 4 pillars you guys have, right? Forming identity or entities. So the LLC creations, tax preparation. You gave us a great breakdown there. Estate planning is another one. And then business credit. I want to dive into business credit because you just touched on it. So Corey and I candidly have looked for sources for credit over time, and we're not sure the nuances, right? You can go into a Wells Fargo, right? And they say, hey, you're approved for X amount of credit because you've been with us for so long. So give us the breakdown on how establishing business credit works, and then how someone would go about, like, what do they need to qualify? How much can they expect in the first year, and then potentially what it can be used for?
Yeah, good question. So the way that I like to, I want to under promise and over deliver. There's so many ways to get money, right? And we have a really cool software-based solution that has 2,000 different vendors in it and 15 different ways to get credit. A lot of people, especially in the real estate space, will do what's called credit stacking, where they leverage their personal credit, if it's over 700, to get 5 to 15 credit cards at 0%. It's usually between $50,000 and $100,000. And then you can take the cash off the cards or whatever else. My personal favorite is building it for the long-term future. And that's through getting trade lines, starter accounts like Staples, Lowe's, Granger, Uline. Some of these starter accounts that you can buy your toilet paper and your paper towels and all these things that no one really wants. Internally, we call them accounts that nobody really wants. And it's just an easy way to jumpstart your business credit profile. So over 3 to 6 months, now you can get major bank cards, major credit cards with lower rates, higher limits over a 3 to 6 month time period. But for lines of credit, just like a home where you need 2 years of tax returns, a lot of times it's the same thing. So on your personal credit, don't miss a payment, hurt your credit. The longer you have open lines of credit, it shows more credit worthiness. Your business credit works similar, but it's a different credit profile. It's called a paydex score. It ranges from 1 to 100. And it's one more way to separate church and state between your personal and your business life. And it's a great tool for business owners.
To give people an idea, just as like an example, Ryan and I were just trying to go to Wells Fargo to get a line of credit. And typically the offer that we've seen is 10 to 20% of the revenue that you do in a year, they'll give you as a line of credit. So if you're doing $500,000 a year, that you might see a line of credit of, $50,000 to $100,000, right? And it's useful, right? Because, when you run your business on credit cards, you might have that free period, but then it quickly jumps up to that 25% plus in interest that you're paying versus a line of credit where at least our personal lines of credit are right now like 7%. We don't have a business line of credit yet. That's something that we're working on, but I imagine that they're in that prime plus range as opposed to, I know they're not anywhere near the 25%, maybe in the just over double digits. So it's useful, right? And you can run your line of credit, you can pay bills there, and then you can pay yourself back. So I think candidly, it's not something that we even have yet, but it's something that we're going to be exploring as we gain more of that, 1 to 2 years of that business, not through our real estate business, but through our coaching program. That's been really interesting to explore. So I want to get into more of the services that Prime offers. I think this is maybe going to be a unique question for you, but what's like your favorite like aspect of what you think Prime does really well? And I asked the question because there's a lot of CPAs out there, right? There's a lot that do great work, but you guys kind of have like this, all encompassing, like sort of a one-stop shop type of model. And I know you don't do everything, right? But like, what's the thing that stands out to you the most with Prime, and what you like to help your clients with the most?
Yeah, so the 4 core services that we offer, I kind of joke that we're like an in-and-out menu at this point, where we've just stuck with the core 4, and that's entity structure, business credit, tax, and estate planning. My favorite is absolutely credit. I'm super, super passionate about it because everyone has problems, right? Both on their personal and their business life, but more money and good credit help a lot of those problems. And not all of them, but it is a real thing, right? Money and credit really make your life and your business life a whole lot easier. But what I'm most proud of as we've grown is if you go ask an entrepreneurial related question to an attorney, they're oftentimes going to lean towards asset protection and how to protect your business, which they should. That's what they're there for. If you ask the same question to an accountant, a lot of times it's the path of least resistance to file a tax return. And that piece of advice could be totally different. The truth for an entrepreneur is somewhere usually in the middle. So what I think we've taken a lot of pride in over the years is whether you're a brand new business owner, you're starting to scale, or you have exponential growth, meeting you where you are with what you need so you can crawl before you walk and walk before you run, and understand the asset protection pros and cons and the tax pros and cons so that you can make a decision that aligns with your risk tolerance, your short-term and your long-term goals. That's what I'm most proud of. And I think it's probably selfish because that's how my brain works. You tell me what my risk is and let me go make a decision as an entrepreneur. You're my attorney. You're my accountant. I have over 100 of them that work for the company now. Just tell me what my pros and cons are and let me go live with my decision. That's what I'm proud of, to be able to relay to entrepreneurs just like yourselves.
When you talk about LLC setup and formation, I'm curious about your take on how many properties that you should have in an LLC. And this is like a lot of questions that we get within our community. Like, should you have 10 properties in an LLC? Should you have 5? Should you have 1? Should you have 2? Should you start a new LLC for every new for every new property? Should they funnel up into a trust? I mean, I realize this is high level stuff, but what Prime has taught us is that, you have a trust, and then you have LLCs underneath that funnel up, and you kind of your own risk tolerance is that's what you can decide how many go in each. What's your take?
I love this. Yeah. And I know that we've talked about this. I think that when I spoke to your community as well, this was a question. And to be honest, this is a very, very commonly asked question that I get with real estate investors. And here's a good example. Go ask an attorney and they'll tell you to put a different LLC on a different property every time, right? You ask the accountant and they're like, just keep it together. We'll file one form because it's easier for them. So there is no one right answer. And the 3 areas that I've really broken this down and that I think are important for everyone to take into consideration. Number 1, what's the property worth and how much equity do you have? I care a lot more about $500,000 in equity that I have on one of these Utah properties as opposed to $5,000 in equity that I have in one of the Missouri properties, right? The second thing is make sure you're properly insured. And that's one that I probably weigh the most, is because once that insurance policy gets over 5 million, a lot of times it starts to increase quite a bit. So it becomes a math problem on now it makes more sense for me to separate this out and have great coverage. The third thing is your risk tolerance. I've got some clients that still prefer one LLC per property. That's fine. I've got other clients that, I kid you not, have hundreds of doors per LLC, but they have thousands of doors in their portfolio. So knowing that those 3 are areas to take into consideration, if 5 years ago you told me I'd have 15 properties in one LLC, I would have called you crazy. But right now I'm like, can I squeeze 1 or 2 more into it, or do I have to separate them out, right? So it changes as your portfolio grows. Everyone tells you, everyone's heard, don't put all your eggs in one basket, but no one tells you what eggs to put in what basket. So be aware of your financial situation, your risk tolerance, and then live with the decision from there.
I like it. I got one for you too, and it's kind of on the same topic. when you go through, and it looks like you guys have the flow chart, and Corey mentioned that. We've been through the process with you guys, and we set up a bunch of LLCs, which is great. There's always estate planning at the top, and it kind of funnels down. Can you talk about the hierarchy system that you guys put together and why you believe it funnels so perfectly all together? And maybe you don't give all the secret sauce out here, but just to give an idea of context for people like the aspiring real estate investor or the guy that's got 1 to 5 properties, right? How to structure things and protect themselves. Just talk about the flow a little bit, because I think that's where people, you mentioned, the CPA is going to tell you one thing, and then you go to the attorney, they tell you something else, right? And then you go to you guys and you're like, hold up, like this is how to lay the groundwork. And I really liked the flow system. I mean, it's probably would need an hour to go through everything, but just overall high level would be great.
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate you asking. And there's no secret sauce. What's mine is yours. I'll share whatever I have. I want to help people. I want to better people's situations. And I'll start by telling you one of the areas that we really tell people is 2 things to remember. When you pay yourself, it's up and out. When you're lending money, it's over and down. I'll elaborate more on that. Up and out to pay, over and down to lend. I start there so that I can help you understand kind of what we're looking for. Up top, like both of you had mentioned, everyone should have an estate plan. Trust, will, living will, power of attorney. If you don't have one right now and you're listening to this, that doesn't mean you need one tomorrow. Put it on the to-do list, put it on the vision board, put it on the why wall. But everyone should have an estate plan. Benjamin Franklin said the 2 things that are certain are death and taxes, right? Depressing, but there's truth to it. Protect your assets and what you're working so hard for. And then underneath the estate plan, I personally have, and I know you guys do too, holding companies out of Wyoming. And Delaware and Wyoming are great. They're privacy states. Not all states are created equal when it comes to corporate law. What I love about Wyoming is it's simple, it's easy, it's less expensive. So that Wyoming company can own my other businesses and the percentage of ownership that I also have as well. When you asked about the real estate portfolio, I got 2 corporate buildings as well. It's about 100,000 square feet. I forgot about that as well. But so the percentage, I don't own all of those. If I own 10, 20, or 40%, I can have the holding company not only own those portions of the syndications, but also the properties and separate those out. And then I can pay myself up and out. If I have a bunch of money in LLC A, I can lend over to C and down to the property that's being invested into. So the flow chart is based off of what you have. You don't need all of those things at once. You can set them up one at a time as you grow. So you're not over expensing yourself and you're not making your tax filing harder than it needs to be able to file a tax return.
So as an example, Tommy, this is what we've done on a syndication that we're a general partner on. Ryan and I have a 50-50 LLC that we created. That LLC owns a general partnership stake. I don't know the percentage off the top of my head, 20, 30, 40%, like you said, of the LLC that has bought the property. So then our other partner has an LLC that owns his general partnership percentage stake of the LLC that bought the property. So there's this 2, owners, then the LLCs, and then the LLCs own the percentage of the LLC that bought the property. So that's like some kind of, it's interesting that I just wanted to walk someone through an exact example of like how we're purchasing properties and the structure that we're doing. I don't know. Does that sound like we're doing it right to you?
It's perfect. I mean, that's because here's a really just cool story as well that I'll share with you. I was at a real estate event a couple years ago. This guy comes up to me. He's like, Tommy, I got to tell you this story. He's like, I heard you talking about holding companies in one of these communities. And I told my wife, we're not doing that. We're setting it up out of Florida. I'm doing it myself. So he goes to sunbiz.org is the website out of Florida. And he goes, my first rental property. And 2 months later, Florida gets hit with a hurricane. And the tenant thought that the power bill wasn't paid. So he looks up the LLC and it's set up out of his house. At 2 a.m, this dude shows up banging on the window, asking why the power bill wasn't paid. And his wife was like, forget it, sell it. We've got 2 little kids. We're not doing this. And he's like, hold on. I heard this crazy dude talking about Wyoming. Let me call, see if we can get some privacy. He goes, this was 2 years ago. I retired my wife and I do real estate full time because we were able to do it with confidence and the privacy. And I've got stories like that too. I had one guy that tried to find me and show up at my house off my business entity. He ended up finding Prime Corporate Services headquarters and coming in here. Crazy dude, but he ended up being cool. So we turned him around. He came in cursing, hooting, and hollering. But having that privacy and having that protection, I'm cool for them to show up and talk to me. I don't need that in front of my kids. If I get issued a lawsuit, they can subpoena my registered agents or they can subpoena my virtual addresses and they can deal with my attorneys, right? Life's too short. I want to keep the main thing, and keep that separation. So
100,
massive
100%,
benefit.
Dude, 100%. Yeah. We got a thank you note from someone for something. I'm like, how the hell did they get my address? Like, I couldn't believe it. And it was someone random and they found the LLC, whatever, and trickled it down. So it is possible. And there's crazies out there, man. Like that was a different side. It was a thank you note. It wasn't someone banging down my door, but there's that unease, right? When you have kids too, it changes the game a little bit. And you're like, so I understand that guy's qualm he had with it right down in Florida, and the wife being like, dude, we're out, we're done. He's like, hold up, let me figure this out. So my question for you is, there's people listening to this that already have portfolios, right? And they already have like a mix of LLCs and entities and things like that. And they're like, dude, I don't know if I have it structured properly. Do you guys say, okay, hey, we will come in and help you restructure and figure this thing out, or we start over fresh? How does it work with Prime? I'm so curious because I know, not everybody's coming in, bright eyes and bushy tails as the first brand new investor with no entities. Most of us have already things going on and we need a little bit of a restructure or a guiding light to help us fix things.
Yeah, good question. I mean, there's two pieces of advice that I'll start with on this one. The first one is knowledge is power. The more that you know on how you're structured currently and what you're going to do in the future gives you more power as an investor to give yourself protection, tax benefits, and credibility. The second piece that I'll tell you is if you are set up poorly or improperly, we'll say, all it's going to cost you is time or money. So let's see what that is. And then you make a decision on what's best for you. It really is that simple. What are the pros? What are the cons? And what do you care most about? If you already have a bunch of entities, a lot of it will depend on the state that you're in, right? If you're in California, you've got an $800 a year obligation per entity. You can imagine that my California clients usually will put more properties into one LLC so it doesn't affect their margin. So what's your risk tolerance? Where are you located? What are your short-term, long-term goals? Here's what it's going to cost, and here's the time that it's going to take. But there's a lot of times where we'll talk to investors where I'm like, you've got so much going on right here. Let's just keep this separate and set up what you do moving forward fresh so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel and pay a ton of money for no reason. Here's the pros, here's the cons. Are you cool with that? Let's live with the results. It's just like playing a sport, right? You go prepare for the game and win or lose, you got to live with those results. And I think that it's the same thing in business. If you've made mistakes, know what they are so that you don't have blind spots into the future and there's no surprises on lawsuits or tax benefits or anything else.
Totally fair. Cool. Last thing for me, because we touched on all the other pillars, let's get to pillar 4 and talk about estate planning. I think there's a lot of people that don't even know what that is. They hear real estate and they hear estate plan, like, am I just planning out my properties? Which I know it's completely not that. So take us through what estate planning is and how it flows into this whole picture. We mentioned the hierarchy and the flow chart already, but look, I just, for the layman that doesn't really understand what it is, just break it down on an elementary level if you could.
Yeah, for sure. The number one goal and intention of having an estate plan is avoiding probate. And probate's just a process that goes through the state that assigns your assets to where they see fit while taking a percentage of your overall income and your overall net worth. So with that being said, I would like to start by saying I am a hypocrite, and I've been talking about how important estate planning is for 13 years. And I didn't finish mine until my daughter was born about 4 years ago. That was the first time. I love my wife so much. She's amazing. But it was the first time I was like, if something happens to me, I want this girl to be spoiled rotten, and I don't want the state stepping in on anything. So sometimes that's what it takes to kind of push you over the edge to make those things happen. But trust, will, living will, power of attorney, they all serve different purposes. Most of you are going to see that in the state that you're located, a living trust is what avoids probate, but every state is a little bit different. So that's what we do is we walk you through. We're able to file entities, taxes, estate plans in all 50 states with our network. And the goal is protecting yourself now and leaving a legacy down the road.
Perfect.
So, Tommy, what do you think is next for Prime? You know, you've been doing this for not just Prime, but yourself. Like you've been doing this for, you mentioned, over a decade. You can kind of get lost in the sauce a little bit. And it seems like you've done a lot. And I don't mean lost in the sauce in a negative way. It's just like you're just building a business, right? And it's not all sunshine and rainbows. But you guys are really successful, you know. I'm not going to share what you told me you do a year, but it's not a little bit. So what's next for Prime? Like where do you want to take this? And you know, you're a young dude. Like there's so much life and business ahead. I mean, what's the vision?
Yeah, good. Really, really, really good question. You know, it truly has changed since I've had kids. I've got a lot of gas left in the tank. I truly, truly enjoy what I do. Like, it's disgusting how much I love talking about entity structure, tax, and entrepreneurship. Once I lose that passion and lose that love, I'm sure there will be some sort of a pivot and a transition. But over the last 2 years, I've got an amazing team. We've got over 350 employees now. Like, I can't believe it. It's insane. And to your point, I've got a lot of businesses that do 7, 8, and we've got one that even did 9 figures last year. And it's something that I'm proud of and I'm happy to share. I appreciate you taking it the way that you did. But I've learned a lot. And like you said, I'm young and I can help and I can get my word out there to help other entrepreneurs do the same. I am huge on collaboration over competition. I would rather give all the free information that I have up here because I'm going to need it back in other areas. Not everyone's an expert in everything. We can all learn together. Life is hard enough. But over the last 2 years, I've taken a step back and I've thought to myself, if I was to start this over, what would I want? And I realized that a lot of it is tech-based solutions. So we have spent, I kid you not, millions of dollars. We're probably pushing $10 million in tech over the taxing, the back-end systems, the BOI, the business credit. We have pushed a lot of money into tech, and I've got some amazing solutions coming up. Software-based business credit, digital portfolios. I pay a lot of money to a home office on an annual basis, and they manage all my bookkeeping, all my taxes, all my entities, so that I can focus on Prime. They do everything that I'm talking to you about for me. So I actually we built, I didn't do anything. My team built an amazing solution that business owners will be able to log their financial life into this. That is their insurance. It's their car payments. It's their rental properties. It's their whole financial life. When they go qualify for a house, they give them everything, and it's everything they need in their financial life. So we're going live with that March 1st, 2025. We have a soft launch in February, and I'm just going to give it away for free. I'm millions of dollars in. Both of you guys will be one of the first people to know. You can log into it. You can add everything into it. And what I pay $60,000 to $100,000 a year for, I'm giving it away for free because I want to better business owners to earn more trust to get more business. I'm not doing it out of the kindness of my heart. There is an end game to make more money, but I want to lead with more value. So that's where it's coming from, the kindness of my heart to help more people to better businesses long term. So I don't know, man. I should have a better idea than I do. Steve Harward's our visionary, and he looks into the future. I live so in the moment that I feel like it'll hit me pretty abruptly when I want to make a pivot. But for now, I'm ready to roll. I want to keep going.
That's great, man. Last question from me. I kind of just made this up on the spot. We normally have sometimes we end it with some philosophical stuff, but this will hopefully point you in a direction with this question. So Ryan and I are in the middle of a startup, basically. Like we are, some days are amazing and some days are not. I'm curious knowing what you know now about entrepreneurship, what do you wish you knew in the beginning?
This is a really good question. I went through this myself when we started Prime Corporate. Once again, this is 2012. In 2013, we lost our biggest lead provider, and I didn't think that we were going to make it. I was debating moving to Vegas to work with my dad and hopefully take over the real estate brokerage. And my dad was like, dude, I'm selling this. He sold it, moved to Nicaragua. He's been there ever since. He loves it, surfing every day. So I
I
had
want
to
to
make
meet
it
his dad.
work. He's cool. Yeah, he's awesome. We should go to Nicaragua together. That would be a blast. But I had to go all in. So you guys are already all in. You have that going for you. The two things that I would highly recommend. Number one, most important, over communicate. Things that you think that are not important to communicate to each other, talk each other's ears off. Get on the phone late nights. Talk to each other about how your days went, how your calls went, what you have on the docket. And do that because when Ryan brings you an idea, you'll be able to give him feedback, and then you're going to be thinking about it, and it could be the difference in what turns the corner for you long term. So over communicate is number one, is even if it's annoying. Steve Harward, the CEO, and I for the first 10 years, I probably talked to him more than I talked to my wife, right? And my wife was very understanding. Have a partner that's understanding as well. It's another big one. The second thing is lead with good intentions and better the business. So what can you do to better your client's experience? If you're wholesaling, what can you do to solve more problems? If you're fix and flipping, how do you increase your bottom line? How do you better the client experience? And when we've done that, we focused on that, money has followed. I'm going to give one more. The third thing, find what you love. This is what I did terribly. So this is why I'm going to add this. I'm really, really bad at this one that I'm about to share. Trust other people to do things that you don't love. What do you love doing? I still love doing these podcasts. I love doing these webinars. Like, double down on what you love and hire out the rest, even if it costs more money than it would have time, because you are more valuable in doing the things that you enjoy to make more money than you are cleaning the bathrooms, doing your own bookkeeping. Free up your time, buy back your time. That's something I was terrible at. I worked 6, 7 days a week for years and 12 to 15-hour days. If I did it all over again, I would have hired things out and trusted people earlier to buy back my time.
That's a great answer, man. And I could have peeled back layer after layer, but you hit on so many things that we're going through or we have gone through, right? And I'm like, oh, that checks. Even the spouse thing, right? It's so true. We're in year 4, going on year 5, right? And they have our backs, which is awesome. And they're like, they understand, like, if I'm texting someone at midnight, it's 10 times out of 10, it's Corey, and just like one of those things is like, sometimes you roll over and just be like, does he ever shut up? I'm like, well, nope, I don't ever shut up. And it's one of those things. And you have to play off each other's energy, and you never let each other have a bad day. Like, one can have a bad day, but if you're both having a bad day, you're down the vortex and it's not going to be great. So
100%.
you nailed it, which is great. And it's just it's a breath of fresh air just to know we're doing the right things, and like we're supposed to be experiencing these things. And so we've started a number of companies, right? Like things like that we thought were going to be amazing. We're like, we don't love that. And like, we don't think we can serve enough people with that. And so what I found is just another thing you touched on is like leading with value and like putting even just the product that you're about to put out in March, right? Just, hey, giving it all away for free. Obviously there's the end goal, but I'm telling this right now. I mean, you tell us, we tell you, it's the same thing. Every single time we've led with value and we just do it for free, and you could tell there's passion behind it and that we care and we're genuine. The money follows. The people that chase money runs away. That you can tell that someone's after money and you're just like, dude, I'm out. Like I know the vibe, I'm out. So it's just tried and true. Every single entrepreneur that we talk to or successful person understands this. I think one of the biggest roadblocks we're experiencing now is, and it's not so much a roadblock, but we'll call it a speed bump, if you will, right? Like, I'm maintaining my W-2 job, so I have an income coming in. Corey's full-time in our new business, right? We have the real estate on the side that still funnels in. It's nothing that is going to like pay for our lives 10 times over, right? But we have a huge solid foundation that'll be great in the next 10 years. So it's the active income coming in now to then sustain the business, allow us to invest into more real estate and build a business and serve more people on better scale. So it's like what I'm getting to is allocation of dollars, right? And knowing when to invest more into the business. Even when you're getting close to, you're at the break even line, or maybe you're even in the red and you're like, dude, we need this facet, right? You always think you need to spend on this to get to the next level. So as you guys kind of went through this journey, I don't know that I have the perfect question for you. You're going to have the perfect answer, but it's more so, how did you know when to spend on something and to protect what you currently have? Also, how to get to the next level with your spending. Meaning, for example, if you need like right now we're really looking at potentially dumping more money into ads and dumping more into a funnel, right? And we believe that can get us to the next level because we have the other 85% built. We're just like, could we keep riding what we're riding and go, at a decent level, or should we dump extra cash into this to jump potentially the hockey stick exponentiality? So take me through whatever you got.
Good. Really, really, really good question. I mean, my first recommendation is do the marketing right now and save yourself money in taxes moving into the future. And understanding your profit and loss is the most important thing you can do to make those decisions, to make them feel educated. So call your accountant, the one that let's do a math problem. What does the money look like? How much can you spend? Is it $100,000, $20,000, $5,000? What makes the most sense to save money in taxes? And let's say that those ads don't bring in a single dollar of business. Live with the results, but know that you save money in taxes. That has helped me a ton in understanding the profit and loss side. The flip side to that I would say is outwork it. And this is what I told you earlier was a mistake. Is it going to cost you time or is it going to cost you money? If you can do it, put your head down and spend a Saturday or a Sunday banging it out in 12 hours as opposed to writing the check. If you need to write the check to save the 12 hours, what's it going to save you in taxes? Weigh your time versus your money and take the risk. Spend the money. Who gives this is another thing that's so weird about my upbringing in comparison. My mom, my whole life said, it's okay. It's only money. We'll make more. My mom, if she sold a house, she'd give the commission back to be able to get someone furniture. My dad made a lot of money with the real estate brokerage and then sold it and sailed off. I knew that there was somewhere in the middle where I can still help people and make a profitable business. So what are the decisions? How much are they going to save you money in tax? Can you do it yourself? And is it worth your time? And if you can answer, yes, this saves me money in tax. Yes, this is better spent with money as opposed to time. Make the decision, live with the results, move on and learn from it. And that's just the way I'm built. Like I'm cool with the losses that I've taken. And when you told me the wins, I forgot to even tell you I have 2 buildings that I own when you asked about the real estate portfolio. The wins will continue to come. I can tell you every loss and every person that's wronged me over the history. Like learn from the mistakes and get numb to the wins so that you just keep winning.
I like it, man. There is such a happy balance. I think the issue is I'm more of the F it, man. Let's just drop the bag. I don't care. I will make more money. And Corey's a little bit more conservative with it on certain areas too. And that's always been us.
That's very dependent on our situation right now.
It's good.
Yeah. I feel like it's kind of always been there, to be honest. But I'm giving myself not enough credit to analyze. I should be maybe pulling a couple of layers deeper of analyzation. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
We appreciate. Go ahead.
The last thing I'll say is one of my mentors, Roland Frazier. He's a great friend and a business partner, and I love Roland so much. He said this in one of our meetings: tweak, test, track. So tweak what you're doing, test if it's working, track the results, and live with the rest. Learn from it. But the TTT. Continue to do it with your business on every aspect, even the components that are working, and just continue bettering it. So that's my final thing that I would say for everyone to take away.
It's awesome. We respect your time here, Tommy. This is awesome. We have developed a relationship with you. I'm honored to get to have a partnership and just get to talk to you. So we appreciate your time. If people want to learn more about you, network, connect, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Yeah, what we'll do is we'll get you a specific link so that we know you're listening to the Wealth Juice podcast. Click on the link. We'll give you that free 45-minute to hour consultation to break down where you are, where you're going, what the goals are. And if we can help with entities, business credit, tax, or estate, we're more than happy to do so. But I want to get you a link so that we know that it's an entrepreneur, it's a real estate investor, and that we can help you to the best of our abilities. So happy to get that, and you can put it in the show notes.
Yeah, we have a link, so we'll already. So we'll link it into the show notes. And this has been awesome. There's tons of nuggets in here that people can take away and implement into their own lives and go and try and do it on their own. But if you want the professionals' help, I would book a call for sure with Prime Corporate. They've been amazing to us. And yeah, Tommy, we appreciate it, man.
You guys are great. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure. Great seeing you guys. And let's get together for some golf or something fun soon as well.
Let's do it.